Well, there's so much I could tell about the story. I will say this, that I wish everybody could die.
Welcome to TTalks, where we dive into the stories behind leaders shaping this world. I'm your host, TJ Walia, and today's guest is Emmy-nominated TV director, author, and speaker, Bill Dolan. Bill is the president and creative director of Spirit Media, a creative marketing agency specializing in video production, live, virtual, and hybrid event production, and marketing strategy. Bill has produced live events for 500 to 250,000 people, directed national and international broadcasts for millions, and has acted as a director and creative consultant for hundreds of organizations, from Fortune 500 companies to the largest media distributors in the world. In 1999, Bill had a death experience, not a near-death experience, a death experience that challenged his worldview and approach to communication and marketing. Years of research led him to write a book, The 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing. Today, he is recognized authority, keynote speaker, and a coach of the 7 DRM strategy. Bill, thank you very much for joining us. Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks, TJ. Great to be here.
Thank you. Bill, a quick introduction from yourself for our audience as well. I know I've summarized a lot of the things that you've kind of accomplished through your journey, but just something from your side as well, please.
Well, I think you summarized it well. The idea, look, I'm a kid that grew up on television, and my whole television career has taken me through live broadcast television to entertainment work to sport work. I mean, I've covered a lot of spectrums, and it's given me an opportunity, to work with some really cool people. And probably one of the great things that comes out of this is when you surround yourself with the best people in your industry, it raises your game. It elevates your expectations. It raises the accountability. And I would say, if you say, who am I today? I am a product of having been surrounded by brilliant people who are masters of their craft and continue to push me, mentor me, and motivate me to be the best version of me. And that really is who I am today, and hopefully who I'm going to be tomorrow and the next day and the next day.
That's very powerful, Bill. It's we hear it all the time in terms of having the right people, surround us so that we can learn from them and help give back to them as well, because we're part of that. But to hear that that's where that direct influence has come to you from is quite incredible. I do want to touch on something that's very, very key for me and our listeners, and that's a turning point. In our lives, everybody has this specific turning point that we run across, and it's not evident at the time. However, as we look back, as we start putting all the pieces together about our life journey, we're like, you know what, that was a very pivotal moment. And if that didn't happen, whether it's by luck or by fluke or whatever have you, if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today. What does that look like for you?
Well, it's interesting. I've had many turning points, and like you point out, you don't realize it when you're experiencing it. Obviously, the one that you talk about, my death experience, was a profound turning point, and that was one that I didn't have to go, "Wow, is that going to be different?" No, it was blatantly obvious, transformational. But beyond that major change in my life, I can actually go back to high school and going to school. And at the time, first thinking I want to be a doctor, and then thinking maybe I wanted to get into television reporting. But because I was involved in the arts and I was involved in communication, I was given the assignment to produce what is called the Senior Slide Program. It was taking all the things that had been done over the last 4 years, put them into a show, because I was the news director, and they thought, okay, he's going to be the guy to do it. And I thought, okay, it'll be a fun project. I had no idea how much that would change my life, because what was simply just a project immersed me in something that exposed my passion. And here's where it went. I started accumulating these pictures, and I realized that after years of kind of a difficult childhood, where I would immerse myself in old movies and watching old storytelling, I was learning how to tell stories. And I used that lesson to tell stories about my class, tell stories about the journey they went on. But the key came not just in doing the work and understanding the art of storytelling, but the day we got to show it. And there was about 1,500 kids in our school. And I sat in the side of the auditorium. I didn't want to sit in the auditorium. I wanted to sit on the side so I could watch people. And I remember the lights went out, and and the big screen illuminated, and this program started to unfold. And I had crafted it with the idea I wanted to hit him with something a little funny at the beginning. I want something reflective. And I wanted to end on a moment of kind of deep reflection, that high school wasn't just a time that we spent learning, but it was a time that we spent developing and growing and maybe learning a little bit more about ourselves. So as that story unfolded, I I smiled because I saw them laugh. And I saw them kind of ponder when we got to deep spots. And I don't know about you, but when you're going to school, you might have one or two friends that you say, okay, these are my friends. And
Yeah.
then you have people that are like acquaintances, a larger sphere. But in a school of 1,500, many of these people were just faces in the hallways, a
Right.
sea of faces in the hallways. But in that moment, as I was sharing a message, I had the privilege of touching their heads and their hearts in what felt like a very intimate way. And then it got to the end of the program, and I started to get some really reflective things. And I watched this group, people I didn't even know, tears started to well up in their eyes.
Wow.
I'm sitting on the sides, tears are running down my cheek. And it dawned on me that in that moment, the, the sea of humanity now became intimate connections. They became friends, and I had the privilege of touching their life. And it was only years later that I could try to understand, why is this so powerful? Why is this so consuming me? And I now know that one of the privileges of being in the media business is that we have tremendous power, tremendous opportunity, and a gift to make a difference in people's lives. And especially after my death experience, I want that more than ever. But I go back to that day in high school, and that cemented that my mission is to multiply multipliers and to impact people's lives, not on the surface, but in a deeply personal way that I believe will have a lasting impact. And that's changed me forever. I'm messed up. That's my thing now.
Wow. Wow. And that's so powerful, Bill. Like it's incredible how you can go right back to that moment, recognize it, understand it, but the impact that you had on everyone else there, and that impact that came back right to yourself, right? Like it's not many people get to experience that in their lives. Not many people get to have that kind of impact. One of my personal reasons why I joined a company like Microsoft early on was because of the reach that they had, the impact they had on the lives on a day-to-day basis. And I knew behind the scenes, this is the impact I was having, whether people knew it or not. But what you're sharing there is absolutely incredible. It's almost a recognition for everyone else in the industry to realize how powerful the work that you do is and how many lives it touches. And as you were sharing that story and the impact it was having on you, I sometimes watch television, and you see all these shows or broadcasts, whether they're news or not, but how fake some of them are, and they don't realize the impact they're having on people's lives through that messages, through some of those lies in some cases, and not realizing what that drastic impact would be on those individuals, their children, their families, their communities. It's remarkable, and it's amazing what you've been able to recognize and gravitate towards. From that, Bill, I know that's a powerful moment there for you. You defined your mission, you defined what you wanted to do, and then your death experience that amplified it for you. That just took it and said, "This is laser focused. This is what I'm doing." Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Well, uh, even though I had that experience in high school, and even though it stirred within me, I think like a lot of people, we become a product of our habits and we become a product of our decisions. I mean, there's estimates that we make over 12 million decisions a year, and many of them micro decisions, but every one of them adds up. There's a compound effect to it. And a lot of those decisions are influenced by our culture. In my case, look, I had a tough relationship with my father, but he taught me hard work and was always like, show up, do the job, da 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 da, and some of these drivers around what we attach to success, I was stuck right into. I don't ask me what game I was playing. I was playing the same game everybody was. And I was going and driving and pushing and driving and pushing and driving, doing my whole thing. And realizing in many ways I was playing a game that someone had preset for me that I had not made a decision to play.
Mm.
And I was playing to a scorecard that someone else had established that was not the scorecard of my own life and my own unique calling. So, really, the story of my death goes back to 1999. And I was in the middle of that rush, that run, run, run type of thing. And I had gotten to a point in the 90s where we were doing work all over the country, and our company was very successful. It was growing. And I'd gotten to a point where I realized I had kind of turned into an absentee father. Um, I just thought if I were to push really hard and the kids could live in a big house and go to private schools, and my wife had the freedom to do what she wanted to do, and I brought back lots of great gifts, that was right, that was good. And in the scorecard of most people's lives, boom, check the box, you are a success. And that was a lie. You see, as I got on that plane that morning to Nashville, I was going to sign a documentary deal. And something was stirring me that said this could be the change of my life, where I would start creating intellectual property and create residual income rather than just working from show to show to show. So as I got on that plane, I remember thinking, today's the day. I'm going to collect a big check. My life is going to change forever. And about 20 minutes into the flight, I started to feel sick. And it's bizarre because I never feel sick. I don't get sick on planes. I'm on a plane all the time. I'm flying with my best friend, Timothy Greenidge. And everything started to close in on me. Just bizarre. It's like I couldn't explain it other than something was wrong. And it was getting to the point where it was so wrong, I had to turn to Tim and I said, Tim, something's not right. That's the last thing I said before my eyes rolled back in my head, my arms flopped by my side, and my heart stopped cold. And Tim, my best friend, who I love, was not a student of CPR, but he'd seen it on TV. And so he began doing chest compressions on me. So he's doing chest compressions. And Tim's a big guy. I am built like a leprechaun. Okay. He, on the other hand, is built
You and
like
I
an
both.
NFL linebacker. Yeah. So he's beating on my chest. It's making quite the scene, but nothing's happening. So Tim picks me up and he puts me in the aisle. He keeps beating on my chest, beating on my chest, beating on my chest. And I can tell you just briefly, and it's for another time, for the 2 to 3 minutes that he was trying to work on me and revive me, I had the most profound after death experience I can imagine. And I crossed the threshold into eternity. And it did. It changed my life in a way that I ended up writing the book, The 7 Disciplines of Relationship Marketing, out of the lessons I learned from that. And I tell that story. But what ended up happening is Tim, as he tells it, he pulls his arm back and he said, he's thinking in his head, I'm ready to break his ribs. And as he pulls his arm back, I take a breath.
Wow.
Now, of course, it makes a scene. They end up doing an emergency landing, hauling me off to a hospital in Rapid City, South Dakota, of all places. And it was shortly after that I was diagnosed with malignant neurocardiogenic syncope, which is where your brain and your heart are out of sync. And I had it to such a degree that it can kill you. It actually stops you. And the only way they can prevent it is they put a pacemaker in your chest. And this is my first pacemaker. They put it in my chest, and on an average of 6 times a day, it intervenes to keep me alive. And I will
Wow.
just say this. Well, there's so much I could tell about the story. I will say this, that I wish everybody could die and come back because it would change how you live. And in my case, I know that a half a dozen times there's a device that intervenes. So it means that not only all of us should be thankful for the gift of life that we have today, but the idea that every breath is a precious gift. And when you approach it with that sense of both um, reverence and responsibility, it's a game changer. It really is a game changer. And it is, a lot of people go, oh, that's so bad. I'm so sorry it happened. I am so thankful because it has changed me. And I'm excited to tell the story in hopes that more people don't have to die, but they can learn how to live.
That's so powerful, Bill. Again, learning how to live, right? The thing you said there, you wish everyone could die at some point. I can guarantee that will happen. Um,
Yeah.
whether they'll come back or not, I can't guarantee that.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful because there's so many that just live their lives, and I wouldn't even call it living. They just coast through their lives without realizing that there is so much they can do. I'm a very, very strong believer that we all have something that we're capable of. That's something very unique, something very powerful. And I tell my daughters, my kids this all the time as well. It's almost like recognizing or doing something effortlessly. Whatever you can do effortlessly without thought, without a lot of work, without a lot of effort is usually your God's gift, right? Where you got a talent or a skill, work on that, right? But a lot of us struggle in other domains trying to figure out what we need to do, but we don't
Yeah.
focus on what we already have, right?
Yeah.
So very powerful. Um, the next area I want to jump into is really about decision making. You get the opportunity to work with some of the brightest and most amazing companies and individuals. Um, Building your business up to all of that takes a lot of decision making. It takes a lot of precision. It takes a lot of planning. What does that look like for you? Your obstacles that you faced to get your business to where what it is today, and the decisions you made to get over those obstacles. Love to understand a little bit of that, please.
Well, a lot of the decisions ultimately, I mean, we know that most of our behaviors are actually a product of habits. And so the first thing is understanding what habits you have and which habits are going to produce the compound effect of benefit and goodness, or which ones are going to produce unfortunate consequences. I mean, I mean, with all the decisions we do make, uh, just let the next year pass and you'll find out whether you made good decisions, bad decisions, and whether your habits need an upgrade or whether your habits have served you well. And so, starting off with the understanding that before I even get into a power meeting with executives or a big production, I need to go in making sure that I'm practicing the right decisions and habits that are going to equip me for success and help me equip my clients for success. Now, with that in mind, and I just came from a client meeting, I always prioritize those decisions and actions based upon something I teach in my book, where it's if we do a project or we do a business or we do it's really a life plan. I encourage people to do a mission manifesto, and the mission manifesto is really simple. It consists of 5 core things. Number one, and this is the tough one. This is the toughest one. So I don't dismiss it as, oh, this is going to be easy. Just do it. It's this. It's what is your why? What is your purpose? And that's something that unfolds. And in the same way with I had that experience in high school, it touched my spirit, but it didn't get to my front left cortex and say, "Doo, doo, 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 here's your purpose." It takes
Yeah.
time and it
Right.
unfolds. But as that starts to emerge, that purpose piece that is a product of understanding your passions, your aptitudes, your life experiences, and converging them, we often pray to God for a map. Just tell me, show me. And that prayer is usually answered with a compass. And that compass is being cognizant of those passions and aptitudes and experiences, and your purpose will unfold. But as you're unfolding that purpose, it's going to lead to the next step, and that is, what are the missions you must do to fulfill that? And those missions become prioritized. What is mission critical and time sensitive relative to your why and your purpose, which leads to the next thing. And that's finally when we get to this area of goals. A lot of people set goals like, oh, I need to set this goal and I'm going to do this and maybe I'm going to lose weight or I'm going to whatever it is. I always say lose weight because it's always on my list. It's one of those annual reset. But the thing is that goals should never be just isolated things. Goals need to be a device of accountability and timeline and responsibility attached to a mission. Because if a goal is attached to your mission and your mission's attached to your purpose, when you get to that point and you go, what is it? 9% of people who make New Year's resolutions drop out shortly. It
Right.
changes because that grit that says, oh, I'm going to do it, and it falls away, now is replaced with the passion that's driven by the purpose of why you do what you do. And when you have those pieces in place, you then can move into the vision stage. What does it look like? And I do this with all my clients. It leads my decisions. I start off with, when we do an engagement, what will happen in this engagement that at the end of it, you will run at me from across the room, leap into my arms, fist pumping with joy, tears running down your face, and now you want to name your children after me. What will happen? And it's a humorous way of getting to their vision, because most of life is one of the trouble with vision is that we end up having people throw pieces at us. It's like a puzzle,
Right.
Oh, I need this piece. I need this piece. Oh, but it's going to be smart because I'm going to use the corners and I'm going to do this, whatever. You know what? Doing the corners and navigating the pieces and decisions is good. But what's even better, and this is where vision comes in, is if you want to put that puzzle of your life together, look at the front of the puzzle box. What does the picture look like? And now when you get to decisions, you can decide not only where does that go in my puzzle, but does that even go in my puzzle? Does
Right.
that go in your puzzle? And that's where I work with clients, is understanding their vision, understanding their values, understanding their why, so that we can now navigate that journey to fulfill that vision. Now, I've never had any of them name their children after me yet, but I've had
Yet.
clients cry.
Yeah.
And when I have clients cry and say, you just did something we only imagined could happen, I'm back in high school again.
Yeah.
And all those micro things drive that decision process. So they aren't willy-nilly. They're very purpose driven. And it helps the client, it helps me, and we get stuff done.
Love it. Love it. On the same note, because you're working directly with so many clients and so many executives, so many powerful individuals at times, are there any examples or times when a decision they were making conflicted with what you wanted to do because it didn't align with your values or what you stood for? And how did you handle that, if there's an example of such?
Well, there have been, and the thing that's good about having been in business for 30 years is that I can usually determine whether we are going to face that conflict before we sign that client. I can tell you that working in the entertainment space, even working broadcast television, um, there there have been times that I've done a show, and when it was done, I felt like I needed to take a shower,
Wow.
and that changed me. Those are the scars, that sensitive mark on your psyche that serves as a beacon of wisdom. And knowing that, I'm now more vigilant about working with people that we have a shared mission. a shared vision. We want to do something that's significant, it's going to make a difference in the world, and do it in the right way. Now, granted, when you're dealing with a creative industry, there's going to be tactical decisions. There's going to be creative decisions. Those things are subjective. And I'm more than willing to navigate that with the client and come together on finding out what those tactics look like and what some of those creative variables can look like. And that's completely okay. That's part of the creative process. I mean,
Right.
it can be vigorous. I mean, vigorous. But I'm not afraid of that as long as we are sharing a higher purpose and a mission. And that really is the driving force with who we work with.
That is cool. That is very cool. And it allows you to be selective, right? We hear it all the time in the business world. We're going to dump that customer because that customer doesn't meet, or work with our expectations or our, values. And to see that and recognize ahead of time, I think is very powerful because it allows you to navigate around such clients or such customers and not have to put yourself in that situation. And not only yourself, but your entire team, right? Because
Exactly. I mean,
it's
otherwise you're thinking, I'm gonna have to get up a bunch of showers here if we don't figure this one out. Just put it in a
exactly,
locker room because it's gonna be a tough road. Yeah, don't want that.
exactly. No, absolutely. Thanks, Bill, for sharing that. The next area I want to dive into is work-life balance.
Mhm,
I'm a big supporter of work-life balance and how it needs to be done. Um, you have a connection directly with high profile professionals. There's responsibilities at
mhm,
stake.
mhm,
You have your own, and work life balance is very individual. It's very personal.
mhm,
How do you navigate that, especially when you're dealing with others who may or may not respect the same boundaries? So how do
mhm,
you prioritize work-life balance? And I know you mentioned, your relationship with your children while they're growing up
mhm,
as well.
mhm.
Learning from that to what you're doing now, we'd love to get some perspectives there.
Well, I'm still a work in progress. I'm very much a work in progress. I can say that I used to be really bad at this work-life balance thing, so much so that I even rejected the idea of calling it work-life balance because the idea of work-life balance kind of implies that you've got a scale, and on one side is work, and the other side is personal. And the truth is, I can't escape the fact that I live what I would call a work-life blend and a work life blend in that I'm a creative. And as a creative, I never stop being creative. Where I try to change that is not so much what I call work life balance, but focus. And it's the recognition that as a husband, as a father, as a business owner, as a leader, as a community advocate, the different things as a writer. I mean, I have a lot of roles. And what I have to do is take into account that mission manifesto, what aligns with my purpose and my missions. And I say missions because a lot of companies, they did one mission. The truth is, I believe in one purpose, but I believe in multiple missions because it's more like really when you talk about living a fulfilling life, it's like warfare. And warfare often has multiple missions that are necessary to fulfill a higher purpose. And I think that's the same way we are in life. So my mission as being a good husband means I need to show up in the time and the frequency and the duration and the intimacy that my wife needs. I do the same thing for my children. What level is that? Now my kids are older now. They don't want as much as me as I want to give to them. So now the battle is, hey, remember me, you know.
Yeah, remember
But
me exactly.
yeah, but the thing is as I look at that, living out my purpose and the missions and the roles I need to fulfill to honor those people in my life, it means that, yeah, there's a physics issue of it, but more important with the physics has to come presence. So that when I am in the presence of my wife, the presence of my children, the presence of my client, the presence of my team, presence of you, my friend TJ, you've got me. You've got me. I am here for you. And in the whole field of things, call it balance, call it blend, whatever it is, the most important gift that I believe I can give to you is presence, because that is a gift of honor. It's a gift of respect. It's a gift of love. And when I try to live that highest value, does it mean that sometimes I have to navigate time schedules? Absolutely. Will it ever be perfect? Never. But will I pour myself in trying to be present in those moments? Absolutely. And that is the warfare that I will fight every single day until the time I put a wrap on this one.
Yeah, it's a great perspective on Bill. It's it's a struggle that I've seen with many individuals in the corporate world. I've personally trained over 8,000 now, and it's always, work life balance doesn't hit like this or it doesn't like this. And people think it's right down the middle, it's 50-50. Half the time I'm at home, half the time I'm at work. It doesn't work like that. It's about being, to your point, where you need to be and being there, not being there physically, but mentally you're somewhere else, and you're not focused on like you're not doing anyone a service at that point. Not your family, not your colleagues, not your employees, no one.
Well, yeah, and one of the people that I used to ignore the most was me. I
Yeah,
was busy doing stuff, and I do believe that my life is a gift and service to others. But my gift that I can give is only as good as I have been equipped and trained, and also rested and prepared to give that gift. So that means that, yeah, work life thing means I have to think about Bill. I have to think
yeah,
about my headspace, my decisions. I have to think about proper rest. I have to think about proper nutrition. I have to think about, guess what? Yesterday I had a date with my wife, but before I had my date with my wife, I went to the gym and I worked out for an hour.
yeah.
That was me equipping myself to be the best version of myself so that I could be the best gift to others. And so that becomes a part of the balance too. And I can tell you, I ignored that person before, to my detriment. Now that person's
And
included in that balancing act.
well, and that's just it. And I think a lot of us do ignore it, right? A lot of us put ourselves at the very bottom. Instead, we should put ourselves at the very top. When I went through my own struggles with burnout, I never even considered TJ as someone who needed time and commitment and dedication.
Yeah,
It was, eating on the road and, just grabbing what you can and just fueling up and that's it. But you're always go, go, go. And I turned it around. I would, because I didn't have time during the day for all these other things, I would hit the gym at 5 a.m., 5:30 in the morning, right? Say, okay, I've got to fuel up for myself. I got to, make myself be the best version of myself, right? And how do you do that? You have to commit
right.
yourself. I love that. I love that.
So smart. So smart. And it usually takes an episode or an event. I mean,
Yes,
we'd love to think, oh,
sadly,
we're brilliant. We're just sponges. Teach us. No, unfortunately, I'm a 2x4 learner. Two by
yeah,
four to the head usually gets my attention. Oh, new lesson, change behaviors. It's unfortunate,
exactly.
but that seems to work.
Well, it works with a lot of us, and I'm hoping that more individuals will see this, even our conversation, and say, you know what, before I run into a situation like these two, let me make some changes, and that's what I'm hoping they could do. Um, Jumping into the next little segment, career development. Again, you get to work with a lot of very unique individuals. Um, some of our listeners are aspiring leaders. When you work with some of these individuals, what are some of the qualities that you see of leaders that are like, wow, these people are the ones that are taking care of their teams, and this is how they're doing it, versus the complete opposite, right? It's like, oof, I would never want to work for this person, right? What does that look like for you?
Well, it's sure because you've worked in a variety of places for a variety of leaders. We've seen great leaders, good leaders, and really bad leaders. And it's been the culmination of having those experiences that have started to shape the kind of leader I want to be. And certainly one of those characteristics has to do with character development. And that piece when I talk about the mission manifesto, a great leader understands why they're here. And they go into a leadership setting with missions and values and a vision for what they want to accomplish. Otherwise, they wouldn't be a leader. Ultimately, we call them leaders because they're going to provide vision and direction for us. But beyond the vision and direction, you have to say, what's one of my missions as a leader? And in my case, as a leader, I think the greatest leaders make other leaders. They don't just look for followers, they're looking to make leaders. And that's the principle of really multiplying multipliers. Because I think that's the ultimate act of leadership is building leaders. Now that means that as a leader, I have to give my people permission to fail. I have to give direction. I have to be able to give insight. I have to sometimes just be a friend. Um, but at the end of the day, what I want to do is help the people that are in my sphere rise to the greatest version of themselves. And that means knowing them. That means caring for them. And I do believe it means loving them. And when you think about that leadership and what that looks like in relationship, it means a great leader shows up. A great leader invests time in his people. A great leader spends intimate time, actually talks and gets to know people beyond a surface level, know what drives them, and in some cases, help them navigate their mission manifesto. What are their passions? What are their aptitudes? And help them on that journey. And I guess if you try to put a bow on it, a great leader is a servant. A great
Yeah,
leader comes to serve. And in serving, um, I think not only is it fulfilling for me, but it is a way you can really not just say you accomplished something, but it means that you've built a legacy. Because ultimately, legacy is the investment you make in people. And I think that's what great leaders do.
love that, love that, and it's about respect versus authority, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's and a lot of them don't get it. A lot of them don't see it, and they want you to do things as they say, not as they ask. It's like, I'm telling you this has to be done and that's it, versus
Mhm.
can you do this?
Yeah.
And they don't realize the difference in the output from the individuals that comes out of it. I've seen it many times. I've experienced it personally where someone tells me to get something done. Sure, I'll get it done. It might be half-assed or half-baked the way you've
Mhm.
told me to do it, versus, hey, we have this project we're working on. Need your support and help in getting this thing to the next level or to the next stage. You go out of your way to make it happen, and you do it so much more that there's so much more um, there's so much more focus, attention, love, respect, all of that baked into it, because now, to your point, you're working with someone towards a better goal, right? Towards achieving something that needs to be done for all, not just that one. So very, very powerful what you said there. All right, we're going to move on to our fun lightning round, which is our rapid
Woohoo!
fire questions. So let's start with this one here. And I think I know the answer for the first one, given the conversation we had before the call. But tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay.
But I do like tea. I like right in the office kitchen, there's organic green tea. So I have 2 cups of organic green tea a day and a minimum of 3 cups of black coffee.
So coffee wins though, just by that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Your wake up time.
Between 6 and 7:30
Okay. Last thing you touch
a.m.
before a.m., not p.m., not
Just
p.m.
yeah. Some would accuse me of saying that's PM. No, no, it's AM.
All right. Last thing you touch before going to bed.
Uh, the remote. I
Okay.
go to bed watching something humorous
Okay.
and and entertaining, a story, some type of sitcom, something. I always watch something like that, and it both relaxes me, it gets me in a kind of a fun, smiling spirit, and as I doze off, I click that button and go to bed.
There you go. If animals could talk, which would you want to have a conversation with?
Oh, my baby cat Marcella.
Okay, that's an easy
Yeah,
one then, isn't it?
yeah. Which is kind of cheating because she already talks to me.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah.
So other than the cat,
Oh, I would love to talk. I would love to sit uh, in some Serengeti in Africa and have a conversation with a lion.
there you go, with the line. There you go. Favorite marketing buzzword?
Oh, you mean like favorite because I like it or I hate it?
Probably because you like it, but I'm curious about the hating one too now.
Favorite marketing buzzword. Oh man. Well, it's a buzzword to me. It's relationship. Because I think marketing is relationship. And so if it's not a buzzword for most people, it's a buzzword to me because I believe it's the heart of why we're here and what I believe great business looks like.
Amazing. One brand you admire for its marketing strategy.
Apple.
It's funny. That's the one that comes to my mind as well, by the way. But that's it for our rapid fire questions, Bill. I want to thank you for being a wonderful and incredible guest, sharing your story from beginning to end. There's a lot that you're accomplishing, there's a lot you have accomplished. And what really, really stood out for me through this conversation really was the impact you're having and the deliberate impact that you're having on the lives of so many, which I think more of our listeners, more of our social media influencers per se should even consider and think about, because one wrong message can take a number of individuals, whether they're young, old, doesn't matter, and navigate them and steer them in the wrong direction. So I found that to be very, very powerful. So thank you for that, Bill.
TJ, thank you so much. It's a joy doing this program with you because number one, I love you and respect you so much, and so to be a guest is an honor. So thank you so much for allowing me to come in and just share some time with you.
Awesome. Thank you again, Bill. It's been a true pleasure. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to TTalks for more conversations with leaders who are shaping our future. Until next time, keep inspiring and keep striving.